What's going on, guys? This is Waylon Martin with Bodybuilding.News, bringing you a quick comparison of two former NPC competitors, Trey Brewer and Steve Kuclo. A decade ago, when talking about the future of bodybuilding, the names Trey Brewer and Steve Kuclo would inevitably come up. Both names ring bells to this day, but for entirely different reasons. While Brewer is considered a flop by many, Kuclo the classic example of a success within the sport of bodybuilding. Although at one period of time, their paths were very similar. The first time the pair would meet is at the 2005 NPC Team Nationals, where Kuclo would handily beat Brewer. It was at this show where Trey's potential was initially recognized because he had a ton of mass for such a young age. And all this mass was just from training for football. It wasn't necessarily bodybuilding specific type training. A year later, at just 21 years of age, Trey Brewer would win the very prestigious Excalibur contest, taking home both the super heavyweight title as well as the men's overall. While the legend of Trey Brewer was born in 2006, Kuclo remained on the down low and was adding some essential mass until 2007, when we would see him compete again at the North Americans, this time finishing in 8th place. A solid placing, but not one that created a large splash within the industry. For Brewer, on the other hand, 2007 is when his weight and hype dramatically increased. During this time, alongside Brendan Curry, the two would sign contracts with BSN Supplements. Brewer was making astounding gains to his physique, and this was noted at the Olympia by Dave Palumbo in an interview, in which Brewer claimed to be floating around 320 pounds. But again at the NPC Nationals later in the year, interviewing with Sean Ray, Brewer would claim he was now at 325 pounds.
Good grief, what are you, 300 pounds?
Yeah, right now I'm about 325.
It was in 2008 when Brewer would finally died down to reveal the mass that he'd been working to add for so long. In his first competition back, he received 5th place as a super heavyweight, competing at the NPC Junior Nationals. Under normal circumstances, especially considering his age, most would consider this a huge accomplishment. However, this wasn't the case due to the large hype surrounding Brewer. And though he did bring an impressive package with lots of mass and shapely muscle, he was lagging in conditioning in the glute hamstring department, which is a theme throughout his bodybuilding career. And Brewer would finally face off with Kuclo again for the second time at the 2008 NPC Nationals. As super heavyweights, Kuclo would finish in 3rd, and Brewer pushed down to the 4th place spot. This placing would elevate Kuclo back into the mix of potential champions, but only set him up for disappointment next year in 2009. While Trey's stock remained relatively the same after a disappointing show earlier in the year at Juniors. But it was their 3rd battle in 2009 at the NPC Nationals that would offset both athletes' careers in totally different directions. It was in 2009 Brewer would finish a disappointing 8th place. And though we didn't know it then, everyone who placed above him eventually went on to become an IFBB pro, with one exception, who was still a national champion. He just didn't get awarded the card at North Americans. Kuclo, however, had an even poorer showing, getting 13th. And if their placings weren't enough, this was also the heyday of online bodybuilding forums, where the many groupies who once promoted them as the next Mr. Olympia were writing off their careers at this point entirely. It was shortly thereafter in 2010 that Brewer was announced to have lost his BSN contract, taking a step back from competing. While Trey was seemingly defeated at this Nationals, Kuclo, however, who placed beneath Trey, took it with a grain of sand and made the improvements he needed to. The next year, he was back in placing at national level contests, and 2 years after that, he had attained IFBB professional status. While many will cite Trey's off seasons for why he couldn't win or turn professional, this is probably flawed logic, as he was always in decent condition. It was just slightly off, and not because of his off season, but seemingly because he wasn't willing to push or extend the diet as long as he needed to. There's not one singular attribute you can attribute Trey's career to, except for this: he gave up. And where Trey gave up, Kuclo continued. The results speak for themselves. And that's everything for today, guys. If you liked, be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube. Check out the site itself. My name is Waylon Martin with Bodybuilding.News.